My mom posted in the family chat, Mother's Day dinner for successful kids only. You, factory worker. I didn't confront her. I quietly moved away. Years later, she called me crying. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for being part of our journey. Our next goal is to reach 200 subscribers by the end of this month. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe and help us achieve this milestone. Every subscription means the world to us. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 34 years old, and I found out my mother was embarrassed by me through a message she posted in our family group chat. It said, Mother's Day dinner for successful kids only. You, factory worker, don't worry about coming. I stared at the message. There were 12 people in the chat. Nobody defended me. My brother reacted with a laughing emoji. My sister sent a heart. I could have argued. Instead, I typed, understood. Then I left the group. 2 weeks later, I moved to another state. I didn't make an announcement. I didn't say goodbye to everyone. I simply packed my things and left. 4 years later, my mother would call me crying. But by then, the daughter she was embarrassed to call a success had become someone my entire family suddenly wanted to know. I grew up with 2 siblings. My older brother, Ryan, was always considered the successful one. My younger sister, Lauren, was the academic. And then there was me. I wasn't interested in college. After high school, I took a job at a manufacturing plant. At first, I thought it would only be temporary. Instead, I discovered I was good at the work. I learned the machines, moved into quality control, then became a shift supervisor. Eventually, I was managing an entire production team. I wasn't ashamed of my job. I actually liked it. My mother didn't. Whenever relatives asked what her children were doing, she proudly talked about Ryan's business or Lauren's corporate career. When someone asked about me, she'd simply say, Emily works at a factory. She never mentioned my promotions, never mentioned my salary, never mentioned that I'd bought my own house. I tried not to care. Until Mother's Day, every year, my siblings and I would arrange something for Mom. That year, I assumed we'd do the same. Then Mom created a family group chat. Her first message was, Mother's Day dinner this year will be for my successful children only. I thought it was a joke. Then she added, Emily, you don't need to come. You're a factory worker, and I don't want the evening to be uncomfortable. I read it several times. My face felt hot. Ryan reacted with a laughing emoji. Lauren sent a heart. Dad said nothing. Then Mom wrote, it's nothing personal. That sentence hurt more than the first one. I had helped this family for years. I'd sent money when Dad's car needed repairs. I'd helped Mom replace appliances. I'd bought birthday gifts. I'd shown up whenever someone needed me. But apparently, I wasn't successful enough to sit at my own Mother's Day dinner. I typed, understood. Then I left the chat. I didn't call Mom. I didn't confront Ryan. I didn't ask anyone why they thought they were better than me. That night, I sat alone in my living room and realized something. I had spent years trying to prove that my life was worth respecting. I was done. The next morning, I contacted my manager. A few months earlier, I'd been offered a transfer to another facility in Ohio. I'd turned it down because I didn't want to leave my family. Now I accepted. The position came with a higher salary and more responsibility. I put my house on the market, packed my belongings, and moved. Mom called after she found out. You moved without telling us? I answered, yes. Why? I thought about her message, successful kids only, then said, because I realized I didn't have a reason to stay. She became angry. You can't just abandon your family. I almost laughed. You told me I wasn't successful enough to celebrate Mother's Day with you. That's not what I meant. It was what you said. She went quiet. I told her I needed space. Then I hung up. The first year away wasn't easy. I was lonely. I worked long hours. But something changed. My new company recognized my ability. I was promoted, then promoted again. I took evening courses in operations management. I learned about automation and supply chains. Eventually, I became responsible for an entire production department. I also started investing. I bought a small rental property, then another. I wasn't trying to prove anything to my family. I had simply stopped waiting for their approval. 4 years passed. I rarely spoke to them. Occasionally, Mom would send a message. I'd respond politely, but we weren't close anymore. Then one morning, my company announced a major expansion. The facility I'd helped manage was becoming one of the largest automated manufacturing operations in the region. I had been promoted to Regional Operations Director. The company published an article about the expansion. My photograph was included. My name was right underneath it. That evening, my phone started ringing. Mom, Dad, Ryan, Lauren, one after another. I ignored them. Then Mom sent a message. Emily, please call me. I didn't. Another message arrived. We saw the article. Then, We're so proud of you." I stared at those words. For years, I had wanted my mother to say them. Now they felt strangely empty, because I remembered exactly what she had written 4 years earlier. "Successful kids only. You, factory worker." She called again. This time I answered. "Hello?" Her voice sounded emotional. "Emily?" "Yes?" "We didn't know." I looked out the window. "Didn't know what?" "How successful you'd become." I smiled faintly. "Mom, I didn't suddenly become successful." Silence. "I was working hard when you were embarrassed to tell people what I did." "I know. I've been doing this for years." "I know." Then she said, "I'm sorry." I didn't answer. After a few seconds, she asked, "Can you come home?" I hesitated. "Why?" "Because I need to talk to you." There was something strange in her voice. Not just regret, desperation. I finally agreed. 3 days later, I drove back to my hometown. When I arrived at my parents' house, Mom opened the door. She hugged me tightly. I barely had time to react. Dad was standing behind her. Ryan and Lauren were there too. Everyone looked nervous. I walked inside. Mom closed the door. Then she said, "We need your help." I looked at her. After 4 years of silence, those were the first words she chose. I slowly put my bag down. "What happened?" Nobody answered. Then Ryan finally looked at me and said, "We're in serious trouble." And suddenly, I understood why my mother had remembered her factory worker daughter. Sometimes, people don't realize your worth when you're standing beside them. They only recognize it after you've stopped standing there. And as I looked around that room, at the family who once excluded me from Mother's Day, I realized they hadn't invited me home because they missed me. They needed something from me. Ryan looked at me. "We're in serious trouble." I sat down. "What happened?" He hesitated. Then Dad answered. "His company is failing." I looked at Ryan. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "How bad?" "Bad enough that we're going to lose the house." I was quiet. Ryan had always been the successful one, the son everyone admired, the son my mother compared me to. Now he was sitting across from me asking for help. Mom reached for my hand. "We thought maybe you could invest." I almost laughed. "Invest?" "Just enough to keep the business alive." "How much?" Ryan finally answered. "About $180,000. I stared at him, then looked at Mom. "So that's why you called me." Mom's face fell. "We're your family." I nodded. 4 years ago, I wasn't successful enough to attend your Mother's Day dinner. "Emily, you called me a factory worker." I was wrong. "You were." Nobody spoke. Then Ryan said, "I know I treated you badly." I looked at him. "You laughed at Mom's message." "I know. You never called when I left." I was embarrassed. "About what?" He sighed. "About being wrong about you." That was the first honest thing I'd heard from him in years. I didn't give Ryan $180,000. Instead, I asked to see the company's financial records. He hesitated. "Why?" "Because I'm not handing over that kind of money without knowing where it goes." Dad frowned. "Don't you trust your brother?" I looked at him. Trust isn't the same as being careless. Ryan eventually gave me access. I spent 2 days reviewing everything. The company wasn't completely failing, but Ryan had made several terrible decisions. He had taken on expensive equipment loans. He'd expanded too quickly, and he'd been using business money to cover personal expenses. I looked at him. "You're not $180,000 away from fixing this." He swallowed. "How far?" "You need to restructure everything." I explained what needed to happen. Sell unnecessary equipment, renegotiate the loans, cut personal expenses, reduce the company's overhead. It wouldn't be easy, but it was possible. Ryan stared at me. "You know how to fix this." "I know how to manage operations." He looked down. I didn't. "No." He nodded. "Can you help me?" I thought about it. "I'll help you build a plan." Mom smiled. "Thank you, but I'm not giving you $180,000. Her smile disappeared. Ryan looked surprised. "What?" "I'll teach you how to fix the problem. But I need money." "No." I shook my head. "You need discipline." Over the next 6 months, Ryan followed the plan. It wasn't easy. He sold his expensive car, moved into a smaller house, cut unnecessary spending, renegotiated his loans. Eventually, the company stabilized. He didn't become wealthy overnight, but he stopped drowning. And for the first time, he was actually managing his own life. One evening, Ryan called me. "I want to thank you. You don't owe me anything." "I do." "No." I used to think working at a factory meant you weren't ambitious. I laughed. "I never stopped being ambitious. I know that now." He paused. "You're better at business than I am." "Don't say that." "It's true." I smiled. "You're getting better." That was enough. My relationship with Mom changed too. She apologized for the Mother's Day message. Not once, several times. One evening, she said, "I thought success looked a certain way." I asked, "What way?" "College degrees." Office jobs, fancy titles. I smiled. And now, she looked at me. Now I think success is being able to build a life you're proud of. I nodded. That's better. She reached for my hand. I was ashamed of your job. I know. I'm ashamed that I was. That apology meant more than her saying she was proud of my promotion, because she finally understood what she'd done. A year later, my company offered me another promotion. This time, I accepted it without hesitation. I became vice president of operations. When the announcement was published, Mom called me. I'm proud of you. I smiled. Thank you. Then she said something I never expected. Not because of your title. I waited. Because you never became bitter. I looked out the window. I almost did. I know. But I chose not to. She cried quietly. I'm glad. Epilogue. Soft piano becomes warm and peaceful. Today, I still work in manufacturing. I still love what I do. The difference is, I no longer feel the need to explain it. My family doesn't either. Mom proudly tells people what I do. Dad asks about my projects. Ryan sometimes calls me for business advice. And Lauren recently admitted that she used to be jealous of how independent I'd become. Our relationship isn't perfect, but it's real now. And that's worth more to me than pretending everything was perfect before. I never moved away to punish my family. I moved because I finally understood that staying somewhere I was constantly diminished wasn't loyalty. It was fear. Leaving gave me the space to become someone I hadn't even realized I could be. And when my family finally saw that success, it wasn't because I had changed into the person they wanted me to be. It was because they finally learned to see the person I'd always been. The factory worker they once dismissed became a supervisor, then a director, then an executive. But honestly, the title was never the point. The point was that I stopped measuring my worth by whether my mother was proud of me. Because the truth is, you don't need a fancy job title to deserve respect. You don't need a six-figure salary to deserve a seat at the table. And you certainly don't need your family's approval to build a meaningful life. Sometimes the best answer to being told you're not successful enough isn't proving them wrong. It's quietly walking away, working hard, and becoming successful on your own definition. Because when you finally know your worth, you don't need anyone else to announce it.